introduce Jillian Grantham, who will be talking to us about the importance of product packaging, how it relates to brand loyalty, and what makes it successful. And I'll give you your honors scores right now.
I'm not going to have to finish it first.
Well, I think it's good to
We'll just leave then. Hi guys, thanks for coming. I'm Jillian, if you haven't met me before. And yeah, for my honors project, which we'll be talking about packaging and visual identity. So we've all heard the phrase, don't judge a book by its cover. And while it's true that you shouldn't measure something's worth strictly based on the outward appearance or your first impressions, whether consciously or unconsciously, you're still intaking information. And besides, if you're not picking up a book based off of an eye-catching cover illustration or the title, then what is it that grabs your interest? Like, why else would you pick up that book? With this presentation, for example, I'd hope that visually by its cover, you would maybe assume, oh, she's an art student, things like that. And the realm of packaging is much the same. So today I'll be talking to you about the importance of packaging and visual identity, what makes for good packaging, applying that visual identity, and just what I've been up to for my project, which is expanding the product line of a fair trade business called ZMBC. Right, so firstly, looking at visual identity. Visual identity refers to the elements used to represent a company, organization, or product, such as its logo, color scheme, web design, illustration style. It has animations, the typography elements, icons, photography, and just the overall aesthetic representation of that brand. So for example, just within the 2 slides that we've had so far, I've already established a visual identity just with the presentation. And I don't think you can talk about packaging design without visual identity, just because the foundation of good packaging is having a good visual identity. And it could be a whole presentation on itself, but just in short, it's what is the story that you are trying to tell with your business or company, and how are you utilizing the tools that you have in order to tell that story. So looking at the presentation, for example, so what are some of the design choices maybe conveyed to you? Clean, modern, hopefully not boring. So looking at our title slide again, it's not really giving off a tone of vintage or dreary. And why is that? Because visuals talk, whether that be the colors or the typography elements. So looking at it a little bit differently, if we were going to have a little bit more WC pride, the top font Oswald is even one of the ones that they use with the WC brand packaging stuff. But so it's still minimal, still pretty classy, and if you just switch around the same colors, it might feel a little bit more bold, a little bit more energetic, more bold, more moody, just depending on how you use the elements that you've chosen. So throwing another color in the mix feels a little bit less WC, maybe a little bit more summery. Obviously, you want to take into account things like legibility, like the bottom example, just not enough contrast. But just throwing in another color can really change the tone of what we've got. So just looking at a couple other examples, utilizing different colors and different text, just to kind of illustrate the point of how much your different color choices and typography elements, and just how changing those can really make a difference. And it's all the same text information, same elements, but yeah, just different colors, different text. So just by changing the colors and fonts, it really makes a huge difference in the tone that's being established. So needless to say, you don't want to underestimate the weight of the visual elements that are going into your branding. So good visual identity should be distinct, something that's unique and stands out from the crowd, such as iconic brands like Nike or Apple, where you know, based off of their logo or typography, what you're looking at. Something that's memorable, makes an impression, should be flexible and works across different mediums, such as web or digital, and print or traditional things. Something cohesive, where the different elements work together. And when it works together well, it allows you to be consistent, which is another important factor. And it should be easy to apply. So you want to be able to equip your brand designers and the people that are using that visual identity to be able to work consistently and properly do their jobs. So that way, your visual identity is doing what it should. So just looking at consistent see. So you've got your good logo, you've got your good fonts, you've got a certain color palette, you've got an iconic brand like Coca-Cola in the making. And I use Coca-Cola as an example on purpose because another key asset of theirs, just with their visual identity, is in fact their packaging and the iconic bottle shape that they use, both physically in the actual bottle itself, but within their design aspects of just using the shape of it. Okay, so why care about packaging? You might be thinking you have a great quality product that you believe in, and packaging just gets thrown away anyway, so why does it even matter when you have this quality product to offer the world? Because if you're at a law firm where you have a meeting with a huge potential new client, you're utilizing the best people you have to offer, not the dude you hired last week that needs to take sharp. Why? Because you're putting your best foot forward. The way that your product presents itself is representation of your brand and a reflection of what that brand stands for, like it or not. And don't worry, there are also plenty of practical reasons that packaging matters, such as an obvious one of protecting your product. So good packaging should be sturdy and reliable. You want it to be safe during transportation, from sellers to retailers, and also when it's just sitting on shelves. Seals oftentimes are used just for maintaining product integrity because customers expect products to function exactly as intended, and good packaging is going to help to ensure that. Secondly, it displays or promotes the product. It's the vehicle of information, whether that be the benefits, ingredients, or instructions of the product. It's displaying that important information regarding the product, and that helps to manage customer expectations, and in return promotes customer satisfaction, because the better the buyer understands what they're purchasing, the more likely they are to be happy with said purchase. And thirdly, packaging is used for attracting your audience. And so today's marketplace is full of competition, and packaging is one of your greatest assets for standing out, because you walk in the store and it looks like this. And so at the same time, while you want to stand out, having a more specific audience you're trying to appeal to is often more effective than trying to win over every single person. For example, the packaging of these coffee companies is very different, but that doesn't make either particularly good or bad if they're just tailoring themselves to their specific target audience. Or maybe their audiences are more alike than you think, and they just have completely different ways of going about it. But either way, good packaging can take all kinds of forms. So for my project, I was doing some stuff for Zambezi, which is a fair trade business that works in partnership with Zambian entrepreneurs, beekeepers, and farmers to bring their products to the North American market. Their products currently include things such as soaps, lip balms, and body balms. And my sister's in-laws help run it, which is how I initially got connected with them. Because they're like, oh, let's see, you do graphic design. I was like, yeah, I'm not half bad. But that's not how that conversation went. But yeah. So with looking at their existing packaging design, they already have a fairly solid logo, branding that they utilize, a visual identity, and packaging that they use. And so it was both a solid jumping off point for me as far as using it for my honors project, as opposed to like the extreme learning curve of creating something from scratch. But another facet of still having a learning curve was working within the parameters of what already existed in order to create something new. And so don't really have any qualms with what I had to work from as far as I really enjoy with their branding, like the rich and dynamic and lively colorfulness to it, but it still has like a clean modernness that just still expresses professionalism. And so the physical packaging qualities as well are fairly solid, such as like the lip balm and body balm tubes are oval, so they aren't going to like roll off your desk, and they're clear so you can see how much is left. Things like that, because obviously physical packaging aspects are still an important part to consider, like the physical design as well as just the visual design of things. So typography with their packaging, for example, isn't necessarily a changing factor. So the main visual identity assets that I was considering in this case are the colors and patterns, because with each scent option, things are distinctly different. The two patterns range from things that are more organic shapes to things that are a lot more geometric in form. The silk fabrics vary and are actually textiles from Zambia, and those are kind of where they take inspiration from the patterns that they utilize on their packaging. So I've got a few things in the works, and we'll be continuing to work on some more because, you know, being a full-time student doesn't lend itself to as much as we would hope. But so a lot of what I've been working on is really walking that fine line of, on the one hand, you want it to feel cohesive as part of the whole, but in color and pattern still distinctly be its own thing and not too similar to something that already exists. So I just want to look specifically at the creative process for like unscented lip balm, which is one of the ones that I've been working on for them. And so first things first, I familiarize myself with existing products and colors. For example, there are soaps that don't come in lip balm scents at this point in time, and so there were more colors to consider and factors besides just strictly the current lip balms. I was just thinking about how it would look within the lineup of the whole. I also talked with them about projected future projects as far as if there were other colors to keep in mind to not use, if there was something else that it would be intended for. So next was just getting my hands on digital files of the labels and putting together color swatch files, just comparing what I was working with to be able to easily visually compare, looking at the colors for a new label design in comparison with what they had going on with the other ones, considering like the temperature and level of contrast and things, just to be able to better familiarize myself with what they are doing with their current packaging. So for the unscented option, primary brand colors was something that crossed my mind. However, there are plenty of products that already use grains, such as the lemongrass ones, tea tree, sweet basil, and so didn't consider that one for long. Just in keeping in mind something that would represent an unscented smell well. Because, for example, the tangerine one uses orange, which very much gets across, oh, this is a citrus. And so just having that unity with the scent option with the colors that correlates with it. Another thing was honey is a big part of what they do, hence the name being Zambezi. And so one of the thoughts was using yellows or neutrals, something that would be fun and fresh and colorful but still feels natural, and have the neutral quality of something that would be unscented. But as soon as I got to actual mock-ups of it, it was very clear that like the psychological connections of yellow were not going to be overcome as far as it just reads like lemons or bananas if you're reaching. But looking at a yellow that wasn't even a straight up true lemon yellow, then it just felt a little bit too muted and dull as far as looking at it within the context of the other colors. And so moved on from yellow pretty quick. And so we were looking at blue, and I think that's the direction that we're pretty solid as far as what we're going to go on. Still experimenting with different levels of contrast and saturation with some different blue tones. Those are just a few of the many color palettes that we've worked through just with mock-ups and things. Because with looking at what already exists, purple feels a lot like lavender, so same issue as yellow with just having psychological color correlations. Greens and yellows are really off the table. Red just didn't make logical sense for an unscented option, and there's already a pink and orange, and so hence just trying blue. And so some of the options we've thrown around, lots of combinations and trial and error of things, considering like the temperature of the colors, like I said, saturation and contrast, but the other aspect is pattern. And so again, that same fine line as with the colors of just working visually as a unit within the other lip balm options, because oftentimes they'll be sets with multiple different ones together. And as unscented, I wanted a pattern that felt timeless, and of course is still within the branding that they already utilize. And so initially I tried to find something that struck a balance between organic and geometric, like some of the different things that they already use within their current patterning, but it didn't really work out as I envisioned. And so the next angle that I had tried with patterning was just evaluating what would seem to be a logical gap to fill, which, looking at it, out of the lip balm options specifically, the lemongrass print is a lot more loose, textural, painterly, almost like a brush pen sort of pattern, and the others, while still having a variety of shapes and forms to them, are mostly made of clean lines and patterns. And so I was trying to, as you can see, probably more so on the bottom one, was trying something similar, but, and this is just where we're at in the process currently. So currently still a little bit probably too similar to lemongrass, so it's something that we'll just continue to play around with and just try different options in order to get a satisfactory final result, and that's where I'm at currently in the process. So the final design for unscented lip balm, as far as like color and pattern, will also be applied to the body balm version of it. And I've also got other things in the works as far as different boxes for lip balms that we're talking about working on. There isn't a rose soap, so we've worked on the label for that a little bit, some of the other things, and so we'll get those rolling, and hopefully the unscented lip balm by the fall or winter will be able to be on the market. But yeah, so that's that. And just thanks to Josh, if you know, you know. But yeah, just with being my advisor and faculty member that I've had for all my graphic design classes, just appreciate your time, and you know, we'll miss taking classes with you. So yeah, so and then as far as just things. Any questions?